Good morning to Keep the Faith with Pastor Frank. This morning we're going to be in Numbers chapter 20. A couple of pretty significant things happened uh, in this little piece of uh, scripture that I'm going to read this morning. And as always, if you log on, give me a chance to say hi. Good morning, Janine. Good to see you online this morning. Pray you're doing well. And so the children of Israel have been in the desert now for a while, the second time. Good morning, Brother Robert, Sister Zena. Good morning, Brother Lewis and Sister Gail. Pray y'all are doing well. So in Numbers chapter 20, we'll start with verse 6, and we'll just go down through some few verses and just read the story, and then I'll say just a few things. So the children of Israel had gotten out to a place. They are again grumbling. They're complaining because there's no water. There's no any of the things. They are blaming Moses for bringing them out of Egypt. They keep saying they have things better in Egypt. And so, of course, Moses and Aaron, of course, Aaron has been anointed the priest of the people, high priest. So Moses and Aaron turned away from the people in Numbers 20 and went to the entrance of the tabernacle, where they fell face down on the ground. Then the glorious presence of the Lord appeared to them, and the Lord said to Moses, "You and Aaron must take the staff and assemble the entire community as the people watch. Speak to the rock over there, and it will pour out its water. You will provide enough water from the rock to satisfy the whole community and their livestock." So Moses did as he was told. He took the staff from the place where it was kept before the Lord. Then he and Aaron summoned the people to come and gather at the rock. "Listen, you rebels," he shouted. "Must we bring you water from this rock?" Then Moses raised his hand and struck the rock twice with the staff, and water gushed out. So the entire community and their livestock drank their fill. And I'll stop there for just a minute. So in doing what God instructed, they have not only the pillar of fire and the pillar of smoke, but they have the tabernacle. They have the tabernacle set up, and they have many things that signify that God is with them. They have manna, they're fed, but yet the people continue to find reasons to be discontent, to find reasons to point their finger at Moses and Aaron and those in leadership, and blame them for bringing them out of a place where it was a place of slavery. But to them, it seemed like it was a very good place to be because of the hardships they suffered in the desert. Now, you again remember they had, and when I say this, remember, I want us to remember too how God has provided for us along the journey we have. And sometimes, and here we got the people. They've got a huge group together. They're very dissatisfied again. And of course, Moses and Aaron go to the Lord. The Lord tells them what to do. They take the staff that's before the Lord, and and um, the Lord had specifically told them to speak to the rock. And here again, Moses, it says here, uh, he, he then Aaron summoned the people to come gather at the rock. Listen, you rebels, he shouted. Must we bring water from this rock? Then Moses raised his hand and struck the rock twice with the staff, and water gushed out. So the entire community and their livestock drank their fill. And uh, just a very simple little couple of things that I want to mention. First place is, and I'll read this down. I'll just read the rest of it. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, because you did not trust me enough to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel, you will not lead them into the land I'm giving them. This place was known as the waters of Meribah, which means arguing, because there the people of Israel argued with the Lord, and there he demonstrated his holiness among them. So by striking the rock, Moses and Aaron had literally disobeyed God. But I'm sure Moses had every reason to be upset with the people, everything that he had tried to do in taking care of them and leading them. They always got together and started fighting among themselves, and ultimately started fighting against the leadership and causing all kind of problems. Now, to me, I'm just thinking out loud, and so they have food, they have the Lord leading them, they have the tabernacle, they have basically all their needs being met, and they've got here they've got the water being provided miraculously again. But Moses had just had enough. And I know a lot of times in our life, if we're not careful, we get to that place where we've had enough and we have a tendency to strike back. And this is what happened to Moses. And he struck the rock. Now, without going into a whole lot, the holiness of the Lord would to be demonstrated by the water coming forth from the rock, that cleansing water that comes, that fulfilling water, the water, if you will, the water of life. And Moses striking the rock was a symbol of Christ being stricken again. Of course, none of this had happened yet, and Moses suffered the consequences of his action, even though he was the leader of the congregation. Aaron suffered the consequences of those actions, even though he was the high priest of the people. So the point that I want to get across to you this morning is very simply, we should maintain control of our emotions as we go through our life. A lot of times when we have an outburst, a lot of times those outbursts can't be retracted. You can't take it back. So many people used to say when I was younger, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. However, words are the scriptures tell us that the power of life and death is in the tongue, and what you say can be very hurtful. Some people have been hurt for the rest of their life by what someone said to them that they intended to hurt them, and the wounds of words can be very deep and long lasting. But here God told Moses and Aaron to speak to the rock. They did not have to strike the rock. They just had to speak to it, and the water would have come out. And because they did not do what God told them to do, neither one, Moses or Aaron, got to go into the promised land. Now, I want you to understand that today people aren't taught that there's consequences to what you do. Uh, Even in the world today, people try to make everything okay. You can't do this, you can't do that until, but people are just literally doing stuff that is uh, not right, and the world is literally saying it's okay. But the fact of the matter is, we don't have to go what the world says. We need to be doing what God says. If God tells us to speak to those around us in love, that's what we need to do. We don't need to strike out in wrath. We don't need to strike out in anger. We don't need to strike out in our own righteousness. We just need to do what God tells us. We need to follow His word and continue to uh, do His will and not impose our will on it. You know, I'm sure Moses was upset because every time there was a little bit of an issue, God had to go before Moses had to go before God, and God had to handle things. This time, Moses did something that he was told not to do. It's really, um, something that cost him a lot. It cost Aaron a lot. In fact, if you read down through the rest of this chapter, um, did live much longer. I mean, he was he uh, his son was placed in charge of the priesthood. So the thing is remember that how we act as we minister the truth of Christ in this world has an impact on people. How we act and cause consequences we will have to bear. So I just pray that God would help us, each one, as we go through our life, to learn how to follow God, how to treat one another, and how to do what God tells us to do, to show forth His righteousness, to show forth His holiness. And I just pray that God will help lead us and guide us and help us do the things that we need to do to show forth His grace, His love, and His righteousness. Keep the faith. I look forward to seeing you again next week. May God richly bless you and keep you.